Today is July 13th and it's 2023. And today we're talking to Sammy Palomares. Sammy, you know, the first day I saw you, I knew there was something special about you. And I'd like to know how you ended up at Harvard Shelter.
Would you like it from just the very beginning?
Well, how about just recently? I mean, where were you before you came to us? Let's do that.
So before my mom/aunt introduced me to the Spirit of Santa Paula shelter, I did a 7-day detox in Tarzana because I was addicted to benzodiazepines. So they cleared my system and I was discharged properly. And then I got dropped off at my mom's and I talked with her and showed her the paperwork that I was clean. And then she helped me look for places and shelters that would take me. But none of them were available to take me in except for the Spirit of Santa Paula. And so she was able to take me there, and that's how I arrived there.
Do you mind sharing what kind of medication that is?
Benzodiazepines, the specific one that I was addicted to were pressed fake pills known as Xanax. And basically I'd be buying them off the streets and they'd be laced with stuff that I probably didn't even know. And I would usually use it and as well as alcohol and mix marijuana as well. And occasionally I also would do cocaine. So I ended up going to the detox saying, yes, I need help because it was what's it called? It was a drain on my bank account and it was also negatively impacting my family. So
there's a reason why you couldn't stay with your mom, right?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us why?
Yes. So at about the age of 17, I had a high school crush. We dated for a little while, about a year-ish, and that's when I started getting into doing Xanax because I was only smoking weed at the point, but I started doing Xanax and was introduced to that, and I ended up getting left by my girlfriend because of that, and I ended up in my room getting too messed up on Xanax and alcohol. I ended up walking over to my mom's kitchen. I picked up a chef's knife, went back to my room, and I just stuck it into my stomach. And then I ended up dropping it, falling to the floor, and it took about, I want to say maybe like 4-ish to 5 minutes of me crawling on the floor, like bleeding out, begging for help before my little sister, her name's Martha, saw me and called my mom and said to call 911. And my little brother also walked in on that too. And my oldest brother was the one that ended up having to carry me and make sure that I didn't bleed out until the paramedics arrived. And I ended up in the hospital for about a month and a half before I was transferred to a psych ward for about another month. And from that psych ward, I ended up in a place called CRT, which is right by that psych ward. And that is where they helped me get back up on my feet. And from there, I went to a foster transitional home.
And how old were you then, 17?
At that time, I was about 17, about to turn 18.
So was that event the result of the girlfriend or a combination of the pills and the alcohol and the drugs and everything?
It was a combination of the drugs and alcohol and everything, as well as maybe a tiny bit to do with my girlfriend, but also a little bit before that incident happened, I was actually diagnosed with bipolar type 2, as well as anxiety and depression. And I was barely starting therapy and getting psychiatric help for medications, so I was not stable because I was taking the medications they would give me. I didn't know if they worked or not because I'd also be mixing it with street pills and alcohol.
The goal of that was what?
The goal that I was trying to do was just forget about everything and just basically get through the whole day without thinking about basically her. Her name was Alana. I just didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to realize that I could have still been in a relationship with her if I just did not touch those pills. And that is a pretty deep regret that I have. But I've learned, and now I'm I moved on, and now I'm a lot better. I have a girlfriend now, and she loves me, and try to stay clean now. And it's a lot easier now to stay clean, but it's been a challenge.
Okay, I expect to meet her soon.
Yeah, her name's Alejandra. She's really sweet, but I usually go and visit her in Camarillo whenever I get the chance. But
So who did you look to for help during that time? Did you have anybody, school counselor, church, best friend?
I had special counseling through the foster care system when I got out of the hospital. I ended up getting a psychiatrist and a therapist, and then I also ended up going to meetings for people with anxiety. But my main support system was basically just my mom. That's about it. I had friends, but they were just there just to use me, basically. If I didn't have anything on me, and if I didn't have like a car, because I did have a car at one point, they just wouldn't hang around me because they thought of me as just another person, you know? So I guess I wouldn't consider them friends.
Isn't Xanax kind of a downer?
Xanax is a downer.
Yeah, so what was in that for you?
It was if I would take enough Xanax, basically I would black out.
I see.
And basically at one point in time, days would go by where I just didn't know what would happen. There was also one point in time where the streets were introduced to these green versions of Xanax called Hulks, and they're stronger than their normal ones that you get off the streets too. And I ended up blacking out for about 4 days, and I woke up at the Ventura Pier with tears in my pants, nothing in my pockets, and all my pockets were just churned inside out, and I had my shirt torn. And I ended up waking up, I walked to the pier, and I asked just some person if I could borrow their phone, and my mom came and picked me up, and I asked her for help.
My goodness. So what was your school years like? This all started when you were like 17, so you managed somehow the first 16 years? So
my mom actually raised me really well. She raised me with good intentions, hardcore Christian, church every Sunday. I ended up stopped going to church every Sunday when I turned about 16 because my mom sent me to a military academy called Grizzly Youth Academy, and I graduated high school with a California high school proficiency exam at 16. And from there, I ended up getting a job at McDonald's right by the Ventura College, as well as enrolling in classes there. And then I got introduced to cocaine, and I got reintroduced to Xanax, and it went downhill again from there.
So who introduced you? How does that happen?
So basically how I got introduced was I used to have a friend that would only sell just weed and these things called cartridges, basically marijuana vapes, and I would just do those. And one day when I was getting a cart, he pulled up and he was like, "Oh, I have these downer things too if you wanted to try them. They're good for anxiety." So I was like, might as well. And I just didn't know anything about them either. So when I ended up doing them the first time, it felt really good, and it just led to an addiction from there.
That's how it happens. You mentioned foster care. When did that start in your life?
So when I was born, I ended up under the care of my biological father, who has slight autism, as well as my biological mother. Her name's Jennifer. She also has a slight learning disability, and they weren't able to take care of us properly. And one day, my dad left some medication out, and my little sister Martha, her name's Martha, she ended up finding a pill on the floor, and she took it, and she started turning blue. So my dad ended up having to call 911, and basically what happened was social services came and took all of us and just threw us all in the system. And it took about almost a year for my aunt to track down each and every one of my siblings and get us just all together in her household to take us in and raise us.
She sounds like an angel.
She is my mother, Teresa.
Yeah, good. I like that.
She raised me up until about 17, and then she kicked me out after, my accident.
You don't blame her, probably.
I don't blame her for anything.
Yeah.
She did an amazing job raising
See, I
me.
told you there was something special about you. You have a brother who's on the autism spectrum.
Yes, he has major autism as well as ciliocardiofacial syndrome, and he does not speak. Basically, he's a 19-year-old baby, kind of.
How did he manage in the foster care system? Who takes babies like that?
I actually don't know who does, but all I know is that my mom took him in, so that's the only person I could think of. I was talking with my mom about that too, and she was telling me that she would not know what would happen to Daniel if somebody else took him in, because when she adopted Daniel, took him under legal guardianship, he had so many problems with him, and all the doctors wanted to do was basically play surgery with him, and my mom didn't like that, so she only got the necessary surgeries that he needed, which were basically to give him the ability to walk properly and breathe properly. And she ended up leaving it at that, because he does have a deformation in his chest, but it's not not super medically important, as well as a type of bump on his head that the doctors wanted to do surgery to remove, but it wasn't necessary. So my mom just fought to keep him how he is, because we love him to death, and there's nothing wrong with him. He's a beautiful kid, and he's super innocent, and he's amazing.
I'm amazed that she was able to find all four of you. I mean, that's a story for someone's book, to think that she would work that hard and love her blood relatives enough to do that. So did she take him right away?
So she ended up finding my older sister first. Her name's Alicia. And then she ended up finding me, and then she found my little brother, and then my little sister. Mm-hmm. And then it actually turns out that recently I had my social worker track down my birth mom, because she just ended up leaving California after everything went down with social services. And my social worker was able to contact her and track her down, and it turns out I have 3 other siblings that I had no idea existed.
That came when? After
That
she
came
left?
after she left. But those 3 are also spread across the United States. There's one in Colorado, there's one in Texas, and I think the other one is in Massachusetts with their fathers. So my mom was just, she has, I don't know what she was thinking or what was going on, but.
Well, yeah. Do you have a desire to meet up with her?
I never really felt like I needed to, but I do text her every once in a while. But I never really felt like I had to meet her. But if I ever do get the chance, I would like to talk with her, But I actually do have the chance to literally just call her and talk. I don't know, but I just haven't done it yet.
Do you feel fragile, that could be upsetting enough to set you back?
Let's reset. 1 second.
I don't think it's just the fragile part that I'm scared of. It's the fallout that I'm scared that might occur, because my mom fought really hard to get us, and my mom fought really hard to track us down and find us. And my mom told me that Jennifer, my birth mom, was not really a decent person. So it would be pretty difficult to hear what, her excuse might have been, because I know what the real reason was, because my aunt told me.
Would you agree that maybe some things are just best left alone?
I do agree with that, up to an extent, I would say, because there are things that I still need to unpack with my actual aunt and her kids too, because we actually have some trauma that we're trying to get through and talk about. But right now, my little sister is not old enough to know about this type of thing. Not this type of thing. This is a whole nother drama thing between my aunt and her ex-husband now, as well as my technically my cousin, but I call him my older brother. His name's Adam. but there's some drama behind that. So basically, it's best to maybe leave it left unsaid until maybe, what's it called? Maybe let time pass a little bit more, let my sister get a little bit older so that she doesn't take it as hard. Because I found a little bit of the history a few days ago, and it was pretty upsetting, and it was really traumatic, actually. I did cry for a little bit. It was a little scary.
So in the therapy that you've had and the professionals you've spoken to, have they given you tools to manage this kind of emotion or experience?
So far, I feel like maybe they're trying to, but it feels like they're not trying their best. And when I was in my detox program, it turns out the psychiatrist there let me know that the medication that I was on was basically like salt for me, and it wasn't doing anything. So they actually corrected my medication there, and it turns out that my normal psychiatrist that I see just was not giving me the right medication and was giving me the wrong dosages, because basically I'd get mood swings, I'd be manic, or I'd get too depressed, and then I'd be taking my medication constantly, but it just wasn't working.
Do you feel like now that you're at the shelter, you've found some stability and people who care about you and kind of are going to walk with you, so you don't feel alone or abandoned? Or
Yeah, actually, I'm really good friends with the bulky black dude. His name's Joseph.
Okay.
He's actually a really cool dude, and I love his babies too. I forgot what his 1-year-old's called, but his other son Joseph, he's kind of a drama king, but he's really cool too.
Yeah. Okay, so good people have come around you.
Yes.
Because we want you to feel safe there. Where do you see yourself in 2 years? Do you have a goal that you have in mind that we can help you with?
A goal I see myself in 2 years is a place that I can be, like, for myself, where I could just have my own space, as well as completing my prerequisites I need to be finished at Ventura College.
Great.
Because I started them, but I did not finish those prerequisites.
Okay, I know you're working right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so is that, you can go to school and work at the same time?
So at one point I was able to balance it until I also introduced drugs with work and going to school, and that's how I messed it up.
Okay.
But there was a small period of time where I was able to balance just going to school and going to work.
Okay, sounds like you know yourself.
I know most of myself, but there are some things that I know my mom hasn't told me yet that I need to know, but I need to wait because it's a lot.
Okay. One of my favorite sayings is to guard your heart. Know what you can take and leave it for later.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, Sammy, your story is really important because you seem to have had a really rough life, but you had some good pieces, a rough patch, and now you're on a good path. We want to stay with you. So just know that we're there for you, and whatever you need, you have to tell us.
Of course, thank
We
you.
do that. Yeah, thanks for telling your story. It's helpful to others.
Of course, no, yeah, it's no problem.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.